Okay. Oh, look at that. This is a long presentation, so excuse me for going a little fast. Okay, so this is going to be about the really big shipment we've done to Istanbul, to Turkey, about a year and a half ago. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about us. I mean, most of you guys already know it. And the order, equipment, so this is sort of a summary of the talk. Flying Sharks was established in 2006. We do collections, consulting. We do a little bit more than that. I'm a part-time professor also. I do some research. We get a lot of students involved in our work. Those of you that have been to RAW last year know about this. We give out a lot of grants, scholarships. And we like to think that we work in a really sustainable way. We do it old school, hand caught, you know, with the 2 nets and all of that. So it's really positive. Okay, so the order. We got this email from Gerard Boykas, this very nice South African gentleman who was a curator in Istanbul, and the Excel spreadsheet just went on forever, which is not the case now. Here we go. Okay, page down, and the Excel sheet just went on and on and on and on and on. And there was a total of 7,000 something fish. And we worked out that our share was going to be about 3,000. That's the Portuguese fish that we could be dealing with. So we were very happy when we got that email. Okay, so Istanbul was our destination, and our primary collections location is in Olhão. That's in the south of Portugal, very nice area for a holiday. We were also going to be collecting in Peniche, which is where I teach. That's north of Lisbon. We're also going to be collecting in Funchal. That's in Madeira, the Madeira Islands, very close to the Canary Islands, so Macaronesian fish, very, very tropical. And of course, in the Azores, in Horta, which is really literally in the middle of the Atlantic. It's part of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So this is where we were going to be collecting. Equipment, we had some challenges. We didn't have enough holding tanks in any of our places. We had 10 transport tanks. We were going to be needing 42. We didn't have enough filters, pumps, or anything. We didn't have enough people. By this time, it was just myself, Zé Graça, my partner, Mr. Morikawa, he's the director of Tunipex, the 3 of us, and we were going to be needing a lot of people. So we started ordering. We placed an order with Aquatic Ecosystems, very good people who all of you have met. We placed $25,000 for tanks and pumps and filters and a bunch of other things, but of course we had to put it all together. One thing to remember is we were getting all this stuff by boat, and you have to remember a few things. Taxes. We felt so special about paying the 25,000. We didn't feel so special when we had to pay 8,000, which is a third to the Portuguese government in taxes, because we didn't think about that. Anyway, you have to arrange road transport from the dock to the place. Accidents do happen. Things get broken up every now and then with all the container handling and everything. So you have to prepare for that sort of thing. Batteries, you can't just use any type of battery. You have to go with a dry cell. And see the little circle or the oval shaped thing down at the end? One thing, the one order we placed outside of Portugal was the one to Aquatic Ecosystems you just saw. Everything else we just sourced locally. And obviously, I don't need to tell you, in a small fishing town like Olhão, when we placed a 30,000 euro order for batteries, that guy's got a picture of us, and he's got the incense stick and the rice thing, and he just loves us. We're his best client ever. And that it makes a difference in the community. Batteries have to travel inside the appropriate airline box, so there was 1,000 euros for that right there. Okay. Then we had to build the 32 tanks, not that, which is not easy. The pallets, the wooden pallets here, you saw Laura's presentation, remember the wooden pallet? These have to be fumigated, because apparently there's some sort of a tick, whatever, that attacks the Portuguese pine. So anything that's wooden and leaves Portugal has to be fumigated, which we didn't learn until we got to the airport, and I'm not going to tell you how we fixed that, but until last night. Anyway, we had to... Anyway, we had to build lids and all sorts of things. We do have this really cool thing that's down at the end of the list. Obviously, these tanks are round. Pulling straps over them is not always easy because you don't want to break the plumbing, you don't want to break the windows, so the straps have a tendency to just kind of fall overboard. We've got this cool little system that the straps go through these metal eyes so that they stay in place, and the airlines really like that. Oxygen, we can't just throw oxygen cylinders on top of the tank, so we got these stainless steel submarines, as we call them, that look pretty damn sweet. We bolt those to the wooden pallet. 2,000 euros in stainless steel, 9,000 euros for a deposit just to use the oxygen cylinders. We had to build new tanks in Olhão in the south of Portugal, employ lots and lots and lots of my students, 10,000 euros right there, and collections. So it just keeps adding and adding and adding. Collections in all of these places. Olhão, we didn't really have to do anything new. I mean, we've been collecting there. I've been collecting there ever since my days at the Oceanarius, all the way back from 97, so it wasn't really nothing new. We were working with our guys from the SETNet. And then, okay, clicker bed. Oh, sorry, okay. Okay, there we go. Now, pretty fish we collected in Olhão, bonito tuna, bull rays, torpedo. I mean, we had about 50 different species. These are just some pretty pictures I wanted to show you. There we go. Peniche and Cascais. Cascais is another nice town near Lisbon. We collected some small stuff also. Nothing new, you know, we got our scuba tanks on our backs. We hand collected a lot of small fish. We go tide pooling as well, a lot of stuff. That's me and some students in Peniche and Cascais, just collecting off the beach there. Pretty fish, wrasses and blennies, all sorts of stuff, invertebrates. Funchal in Madeira, nothing new as well. We just slapped the scuba tank on our backs as well. And we went out and got all these pretty colorful semi-tropical species. And then we get to Horta. Horta is a different scenario. Horta, everything was new. We had never been there. The staff that we procured there had never done this before. So we also went in the water when we started doing hand collections. We used a lot of traps in Horta. Again, we worked with the local university, got a lot of students to come play with us. And we worked with commercial fishermen also that use nets, but very, very targeted nets. These guys, we weren't really catching bycatch, but we were actually hiring these commercial fishermen to go chase very specific species, which was important to us. Cast nets, we use those big times in the big time in the Azores as well, and here's some pretty fish we got in the Azores. Holding, here's where it gets interesting. Holding in Olhão is fun, especially well, the station has been there for many, many years, but when you do it in August, you get 110, 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So shade is important. You have to buy shade cloth, and you have to really make sure the temperature doesn't get too crazy. This is a former student of mine. He's now working with us. We had at one point 600 large fish. Olhão is where we get our rays and our sharks and all of that stuff. Everything has to be fed, of course. We use pellet food, fresh mackerel, bivalves for the rays. Everything has to be cleaned with, and remember, with all that light during the summer, keeping these tanks clean. It's on an open installation. There's no roof over our heads, so it was a bit challenging to keep all that algae from not growing. We had to build new systems. We had to build new filtration. UV was important. We had very, very packed densities, so of course we couldn't let bacteria or anything like that to get out of control. So we had to invest a lot into keeping all of that stuff under control. This is some mackerel we have over there, bull rays, bat rays, stingrays. Funchal, we work with the local marine biology station, so we got these cheesy little tanks, but they work pretty good. We had about 350 small fish there for a couple of months. 100% closed system, where we got some students to come and do water change. We bought them pizza and hot dogs and stuff, and some real money as well to come and take care of stuff. Eventually, we moved these by air to the mainland. We moved them to the school in Peniche. Aesthetics matters because we were traveling Air Portugal. They've never moved live fish in tanks before. They do a lot of styrofoam stuff for us, but they'd never done actual tanks. So we were extremely concerned about the way, or I should say they were extremely concerned about how these tanks were going to handle. So we had to be very worried about making things look good, not just functional, but actually look good. Again, we supersaturated the water with 300 or 400% oxygen because we weren't allowed to use oxygen during a commercial passenger flight. We could use filtration, but not the oxygen, so it was important to have water supersaturated with oxygen. During the time the tank is sealed, we use these little aeration units that just kind of help the oxygen that's above the water and it dissolves better in under the water. Loading the pallets at the terminal in Funchal at night is nice because it's empty. These guys don't really do this sort of thing often, but doing it at 4 a.m. is not so nice. So anyway, ooh, look at that, 5 minutes. Okay, one thing we did do this time, which we thought was really cool, is we actually moved these fish with the decoration. All the decoration we had in Funchal, we threw it inside the transport tank because we had invertebrates, we had fish, we had different species, different sizes, and everything actually worked really, really well. No fish died. In fact, they looked almost happy, I would say, not to be too anthropomorphic about the thing. So it was very nice. Okay. Hey, Holding in Peniche. We bought a TMC system that was expensive too, but well worth the money because they work really well. Closed system again, students taking care of the fish. And we had a lot of small fish. So these were fish collected locally and also the stuff that came from Funchal over there. These are some of the pretty fish that of course had to be fed and the tanks had to be clean. And here we go. And then the client asked us, hey, would you mind taking care of some Arctic fish because this station in Vancouver is closing for the winter. We don't have any, the guy doesn't have a place to put them. So would you mind horribly, you've got these 3,000 fish you're dealing with, can you take care of these 100 Arctic fish for us? And we're like, sure, no problem. And so we went out and we bought a chiller, which wasn't cheap either, and we got a separate system specifically for the Arctic fish that came at 3 a.m. from Vancouver one night. Anyway, so this was all fun. And finally we get to Horta, which, remember, we've never done this there before, so first thing we had to do, we were keeping these fish in the water, in large cages in the harbor. We would put the fish inside the harbor. We would have to go and feed these fish. It was all, needless to say, every now and then we would close people in the cage, which is so much fun. Breaks the tension. Anyway, we had all these fish over there. And eventually we had to move all of these fish out from the cages in the water into containers or into transport tanks that were inside 40-foot shipping containers because, again, we didn't have a facility over there. We do have one now that's being built as we speak. But at the time, we basically moved these tanks into a friend's house and then into these shipping containers. Of course, we had to be concerned. These animals were being kept in transport tanks for 2 or 3 months, so we had to be concerned about providing hiding spaces, artificial decoration, and all of that. And finally, we get transport. So the first thing was to move these 3 40-foot shipping containers with 19 transport tanks inside them from the Azores to the mainland. Now, by this time, I had like a 5th mortgage on my house, and we had all sold our cats and dogs and everything. So we couldn't fly these tanks from the Azores to mainland Portugal, so we figured, let's just do it by boat. It's much cheaper, and it'll work well. So it was only 10,000 euros. We get to the boat, and we have our 12-volt bilge pumps that we use for transports. We get there, and the boat guy tells us, no, you're going to burn all your pumps, because these pumps run at 50 hertz, and the ship's alternator, which is as big as a house, puts out 60 hertz, so you're going to fry all your pumps. So, well, okay, that's okay. We just buy 220-volt pumps, and they cost 70 euros each, and we'll buy a generator and feed it with gas throughout the trip. So that was a problem we solved quickly in 30 minutes. One problem we did have was we didn't know if we were going to be allowed to go on the boat because it depended on the number of cows that get moved from the Azores to the mainland. The Azores has exceptionally nice cows. They have really cool milk, really cool meat. I'm not kidding, by the way. And so they move a lot of cows from the Azores to the mainland. So, but it all turned out okay, and we could move our tanks with the cows. Anyway, we got to Lisbon November 30th. We moved everything to Olhão. Transport was scheduled for December 7th. In fact, my sweatshirt has printed December 7th on the back, but it was delayed for 6 days. So the sweatshirt is not real. Everything happened on December the 13th. During the crossing of the Atlantic, the Azorian guys worked out this really, really cool system where all the tanks were connected in each of the containers with this really cool valve system that allowed them to do water changes in all of the tanks at the same time. And this was really cool, using the ship's, or the ocean's water and the ship's pump, of course. We offloaded the 3 containers in Olhão. They were there for 2 weeks. We had to keep the fish in the transport tanks in Olhão for the 2 weeks with electricity and oxygen and everything running. And finally, the day came where we had to pack everything and go. We had 600 animals in Olhão that had to be packed and placed in containers. We loaded 6 trucks. 3 had the 3 40-foot containers. 3 had just regular transport containers. We had all of the animals in Peniche that were packed in 2 tanks. The Oceanário donated 2 animals, 2 very large animals that traveled in 2 tanks to Istanbul as well. So it was a total of 8 trucks. So bunch of tanks traveling from the Azores by ship to Olhão, a few tanks traveling by air from Funchal to Peniche. Everything got consolidated in Lisbon. 8 trucks, 2 full Airbus 300 planes that night. Weight was an issue, which we learned when we got there. I mean, we thought about this, of course, because we are sensible people and we plan things, but we had a little bit too much weight. All I can say is it's a good thing the Lisbon runway is really, really long. There was some delay offloading the stuff, and I'm really nearly done because I know I'm running over time, and I'm sorry for that. Anyway, total 44 tanks, 22 per plane, and we did have to bend a few rules, and I just love Portugal sometimes. It's a little crazy, I know, but you know, it's just easy to get things done over there every now and then. We wrote a big check for the plane, of course. Thank you, lots of people, my students and the Oceanário. Hugo, in fact, was there that fateful evening assisting us with the procedures. Everybody, like Laura was saying, we had people allocated to measuring pH and dissolved oxygen and everything. We palletized everything in record time. We loaded the first plane. It took off at 1 a.m. Water quality was monitored throughout. I don't actually have an arrow, but some of the bigger tanks you can see over there, they actually have the foam fractionators I was mentioning before, and those work like a dream. Water buffering with Amquel and sodium bicarbonate throughout. I'm proud to say we kept water quality absolutely pristine during the whole transport, which was really, really cool. Second plane took off at 5:40 a.m. We had a bunch of, well, we were nearly in a fist fight with the crew of the second plane. I can tell you that later this evening if you want to. It was quite entertaining. And so, €500,000 operation, 44 tanks, 6 months for collections and holding, well over 50 people involved, 3,100 fish and invertebrates moved. We lost 3, 2 bonito tuna and 1 damsel fish. That's 99.9 survival rate, so we're quite proud of that. Transport time, depending on the time the tanks were opened in Istanbul, either ran for 24 or 36 hours. In Istanbul, we had some help from a German friend of ours, Nicole, that came and gave us a hand, so thank you for that. And I've got a lot of people to thank. I'm not going to go through the list, and I want to thank the RAW Program Committee for giving me the opportunity to present this to you. And last slide, as you know, after RAW last year, my fiancé then and I traveled to Las Vegas, and we got married Star Wars style, and we made a new friend. So thank you very much.